Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands Queen Quindy, our devoted servitors, Justin and John, and Kiki has a squeaky toy and is delayed. Also, I agree, you just need to paint more. Either you need to paint more, or you need to separate out your duplicates and make a present to a new friend to get them into miniature painting too. Because the first hit's free. That's the strat, guys. We got to keep our hobby growing, you know. Surely you have some younger nephews, nieces, other people's nephews, nieces, grandchildren, something, I don't know, whatever, that you could totally gift that stuff to. Even sons and daughters. You're doing well as a minion. Yes, you get a double gold star as a minion for that, Zachariah. Paint more minis. Yeah. Kiki is going to be squeaking that really loud squeaky toy for the entire stream. Oh, well. Sorry. Today is a kind of cloudy day, so I need to clear my sinuses because, oh my God. Ugh. The allergens are in the air, everybody. They're attacking. Hey, Quindy, allergy pill. Hey, Keekster, are you going to come in here and say hello? She's like, meh. Oh, Clicky Paws. Clicky Paws, are you coming my way? Nope, we're all old hat. We're all like chopped liver at this point. Well, okay, we're not even chopped liver. If it was chopped liver, she'd be running for us. But yes, we are. We're worse than chopped liver, everybody. No issues? I'm not seeing any issues on my end. It's kind of warm in here today. I'm going to take off my flannel and regret it later. Yeah, I think the papa has settled down again. No, that's great. Usually, the earliest I've seen somebody try to get their kid into mini painting is 5 or 6, and you want to get some really simple, like bigger bones monsters for that, usually. Like, not giant dragons or anything, but you know, big clunky things with not many details, like unicorns, some dragons, like the little fire dragon, the small dragon. Kiki's like okay on liver. She loves the venison jerky that I get for her Gibson. That's her fave. But yeah, so yeah. Any earlier than that, and they just don't they don't have the stick-to-itiveness or the motor coordination, and you got to be able to trust them with like paint. You know, it's just 5 or 6, and even then, like if you start them at 5 or 6 and you keep painting with them, even if they're just like blurfing around. At least in Paint Club, there was one little girl who was extremely good at the, like, by 9, you could see that everything was coming together. Like, she was starting to be, like, more at the level of an adult, like, beginning painter. Like, she was doing it, even a little bit better than that. I think the thing to remember if you've got kids and you're trying to introduce them into the hobby is not to try to limit them. If they want to paint their ogre blue, they get to paint their ogre blue. Because you're just trying to make it fun, right? You're going to try to make it fun and encourage them. Also, get the colored metallics if you don't have them. The kids love colored metallics. Gibson, your child is very odd. It's so very unusual to have that attention span. I wouldn't set anybody else up with that expectation. But yeah, that is an extremely... Right. See, contrast that with Kodiak, right? Yeah, see, it's a weird child. Yes, yeah, you just accept it. Yeah, exactly. And try to point out, if you see that there's something that you really think is cool that they did, always point it out. Yeah, because it's like that kind of encouragement, because they'll come to, if they decide they want to get better, they'll come to it on their own, right? If they've got that kind of personality, they will get there. If they decide they want to like learn a technique, they're gonna get there, right? But with kids, it's just like, hey, do I have any? Because of our culture, and it's like lies about talent. Like, if a kid believes they don't have a natural talent for something, and in our culture in America today, they'll drop it. So if you critique anything, that's a chance for the kid to decide, oh, I must not be any good at that, right? Because it's going to have a lot of impact. That negative feedback is going to have a lot of impact. Because that's the human brain. Negative feedback is always weighted like 3 or 4 times heavier than positive. So yeah. So you want to, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's like encouraging kids and telling them, oh yeah, you're really improving, and this is a really good mini, I like what you did here, doing that kind of thing. Don't lie to them, but like pick out the good things. That's what gets people to keep on in pursuits. Like with rare exceptions, like I was no good at bowling, but I still really liked bowling, so I kept bowling. But that was me at like age 12, 13. You're a lot more resilient, I think, at that age to criticism or knowing that you're not great at something. At least I was. I didn't care because I liked bowling anyway. Yeah, and you're going to get that, right? You're going to have, and that one that isn't interested in the least might not be interested because their siblings are interested. You never know. It's just the kind of hobby that creeps up on you. It's the kind of hobby where when I worked at the game store, and even now, like I'll run into people and they're like, yeah, I got kind of exposed to this hobby when I was younger, but I never really was interested in it. And then, I just turned, like my kids are out of the house now and I remembered it and I'm like, oh, I'm going to try it again, So the mini painting sneaks up on you throughout your life. Like if you're got a good exposure to it when you're young. So yeah, because it's a creative pursuit and there's a big supportive community and a lot of resources, and yeah, avoiding sibling interests is definitely a thing. Yeah, I know enough of. I have not had kids of my own, but I've had enough cousins and niece and nephew and all that to get a little bit be a bit acquainted with how children think. Well, I was one, and I kind of remember being one. I was a weird kid though. I definitely was the preferred the company of adults to kids type of kid. All right, so we were working on the red. We're going to continue to work on the red, and I want to get a base down on that silver, the silver parts, I think. Although I probably should do the leather first, to be dead honest. And the leather is going to be, yeah, so I'm going to get that out. Sophie's leather, and remember we're doing this to Anne Cannon, so we're painting it like I used to in the long ago days. But I would start with a dark brown for Sophie's leather, and then I would always bring it up with an orange brown, because she's got usually a pretty saturated color scheme, and the orange brown would be similar to highlights that I was using in her hair, so it would harmonize well, although I always kept the leather darker. So it was always like a burnt orange color that I would use. Ah, fantasy adverse. Yeah, which also could be because the rest of your family is into it, right? So you'll see. I mean, that may just be the way he rolls. And if so, go him. Go him. I mean, not everybody has to like the same stuff we do. All right, so reds. I was using heraldic. Where's that? Heraldic red, where have I put you? There you are. And we were using a little bit of yellow to bring that up. I'm going to use a little bit of torchlight. We'll see how that goes. Actually, I think I was using sunrise orange now that I think about it. Yeah, a little bit of sunrise. I don't think I was actually mixing it. So heraldic, sunrise, I think we're going to be good. We already did our shadows. We should be okay on that. So yeah, we'll just continue with our red today. Hey, Chibi, how's it going? Oh, so today is writing day for me. So after this stream, all my whole day is assigned to doing writing things. And so I'm going to get my hardcover files uploaded today because I got my hardcover from my cover artist, my lovely and talented and wonderful cover artist. So that'll take probably like a week to process on Ingram's, and then hardcovers will be available. Not that anybody's going to order one but me, but I so badly want one for my special bookshelf. I'm going to have to shove somebody off of my special bookshelf. It's very hard because I have a lot of like love books on my special bookshelf. So I'll have to carefully consider what I'm going to kick out. Yes, and I'm chugging right along on West of the Moon, by the way. It's interesting how the mindset changed from before I had a book published to after I had my book published. Like, it took forever to get East of the Sun out of the gate. Like, it took for freaking ever. Because the first book is a huge dream. You're going for the self-actualization bucket list thing. And you're like, oh my God, it has to be amazing. Or it has to be as good as I can make it. If you're me, that's one of my things I care about. But now that East of the Sun is out, it's like, there's pressure because now I need to get the other books done. But there's also a lack of pressure because it's out there. I've gotten over the first big hurdle, right? The first thing. It's done. It's out there. And that actually has like freed me up to really focus on book 2 in a way that I hadn't been really focused on it before. And it is like boom, 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 boom. Like I am like really, I'm working on it every day, even if I only have like 15 or 20 minutes during the day. And it's just moving. It's moving. Like, I was half thinking, depends on what my editor says when I get it to her. I mean, she'll have changes for sure, and improvements, but maybe I can hit that, like, beginning of September date, maybe even a little bit earlier. We'll see. I just need a bigger special bookshelf. Yeah, no, have your love with, work out all of your love on Hogwarts, Agent Marvel. When you are done, then refocus. I would never try to grab somebody away from such an immersive game. Wouldn't work. Yeah, I do need a second special bookshelf. I actually do have room for one. I could do it. Yeah, it has to be good enough to get noticed and it's okay, Agent Marvel. It's okay. Thank you for ordering the softcover. Like, honestly, the hardcover won't be on Amazon for a while. I think it'll populate eventually because I think I might have to link it because it's coming from Ingram's and not from Amazon. So I don't know how that works. I'll have to like look it up and see how to link it on Amazon to the other things. Hopefully it's supposed to auto link it. You never know. But yeah, mostly I wanted to do it just because I could. and I want a copy. So the other books on my special shelf are I think there's a couple I could sacrifice. Most of the books on my special shelf are books that I have absolutely loved through the years and that had a big influence on me. Some of them have some of those are on the other special bookshelf. The other that's my writing bookshelf. So some of these influenced Analot books are on the other special bookshelf. But stuff like like Name of the Wind, Ursula K. Le Guin's The Left Hand of Darkness, Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, the first book of the Gunslinger, The Dark Tower, #1. Stephen Brust, The Book of Jereg, was all those Jereg novels. If you're not familiar with them, it's Brust, Stephen. They are great. Like, they were published in the 80s, and some of them maybe show their age a little bit, but they're super fun fantasy assassin books. Fantasy assassin with a heart of gold books. They're great. His world building is wonderful. I still love them. I still reread them every once in a while. William Gibson. Neuromancer, of course, the classic, also Pattern Recognition, because I think his modern stuff is actually some of my favorite stuff he's done. Ready Player One, The Martian, both more recent, but both extremely good books. Ian M. Banks, if you like science fiction, The Player of Games is the one I have on my shelf, but he's one of the few like sci-fi authors I read. I really enjoy his take on his supposedly utopian but not really future. With a lot of AI and a lot of like just evolved artificial intelligence. But he's a good writer. I like him. Ender's Game, John Scalzi's Old Man's War and Ghost Brigades. Scalzi taught me at Viable Paradise. I really like how his fiction moves. Princess Bride, of course. Neil Gaiman, Neverwhere is my all-time #1 favorite book of all time. Also have American Gods over there. And, I probably could take one of those off. Like, I've got a couple of Neil books just because I had Neil books on there. And Neil Gaiman is one of my favorites. I have the complete Sandman as well. But that's all. Those books are immense and they can't fit on the shelf. So they're in the other room. Then we've got the Harry Potter books. The ones that I own in actual physical form. I think I've only got up to 5 in physical form. Anne McCaffrey, both the Dragon Riders of Pern and Harper Hall, and also her sci-fi, her superhero, Pegasus in Flight. I like that one. There's a little-known author whose stuff is probably all out of print right now, but I read her when I was a kid and I loved her. And she's actually a Canadian poet who also decided to write science fiction on the side. And she writes about sentient leopards. And I loved her books. And her name is Phyllis, so Phyllis. The last name is Gottlieb, so it's Gottlieb. The first book is A Judgment of Dragons, but if you just want to find one and read it of her books, The Kingdom of the Cats is probably the best. Yes, sentient leopards. Sentient leopards that were nabbed by an alien intelligence a long time ago and turned into essentially psionic powers. They're fantastic. Oh, our new house is great until it got infested with ants. That is clever. And then, of course, the C.J. Cherry. I'm a big fan of her. Her entire Foreigner series is down here in hardcover mostly because I really love it. But I also have her Chinner series, which I've mentioned before. All of those books are in my love pile. Glenn Cook's Garrett P.I. fantasy detective series is on here. Again, it's my little heart book that I read a lot as a teenager. That series. And then The House with a Clock in Its Walls, John Bellairs. Classic children's book, also still creepy, even this late in my life. I missed Niven and Barnes, the California Voodoo game, all the Dream Park stuff. I love the Dream Park stuff. In the 80s, when everybody was getting excited about virtual reality, the Dream Park novels came out, and I still love reading them, even though they're definitely dated now. Let's see. I think we're there, except for, yeah, that's pretty much what I got over here. Some David Brin. Uplift War is still one of my, he can't finish a series to save his life, but the Uplift War is still a great book. Ilona Andrews actually earned her place on there. But there's a couple, I could drop a Neil Gaiman book off of there and put my book up there. Yeah, I'm not a huge Richard A. Nack fan. I had some of his books when I was younger, and I feel like for me, he wasn't quite in my wheelhouse enough. He wrote great adventure fantasy, that's for sure. But yeah, so that's what's on my shelf. It's a mixture of stuff that I loved as a kid and decided to reacquire as an adult. And just modern stuff that is exceptional storytelling or exceptional writing, like Name of the Wind, or Ready Player One and The Martian are noteworthy for me just because how fast they move, for pacing. So I kind of some of these books are just books I love, and others are just hey, reference, remember to pace better, remember to keep things happening. Wolfhelm, I see. Yeah, the painting on the cover is called Strange Companions, yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Steel. That's insane. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So sorry you're going through the house reskinning there, Twisted Oma, but it sounds like that when you're done, you'll feel like you almost have a new house. Which is awesome. Because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I always try to look a little bit on the upside with this sort of thing. It's you can't control it. So the plus side is then your house is much nicer. And if you want to, I know you've spoken before about not wanting to live in Texas for the rest of your life, Twistoma, or wanting to move to somewhere else. So this will be this makes your house more saleable, right? So if you still had that idea, then that gets you a little bit more along that path if you decided to do it. So yeah, I'm very much if it's happening, it's happening, and I'm just gonna kind of reframe it. Where's the positive? I'm a look on the bright side kind of girl. I couldn't have gotten through all my surgeries without it, honestly. Yeah, exactly, Tyler. A lot of my stuff, like, most of this stuff stands up all right. But yeah, some of the stuff that was a direct influence on my writing is usually over on the writing shelf. So stuff like Watership Down, Redwall. I think Stardust is over there as well because it's not here, so Stardust is probably over on my inspiration writing shelf. Also over there are my my signed books, the books I've had authors sign over the years. C.J. Cherry's Down Below Station, John Scalzi's Old Man's War. Gurm signed a copy of The Ice Dragon for me, which is a novella that he wrote a long time ago that I originally read in an anthology and then realized there was actually a hardcover, almost like a children's book because it's so slim out there, but I nabbed it off of eBay when I saw it and asked him to sign it for me. And then Neil Gaiman's The Dream Hunters, probably my second favorite thing that Neil has written. Also, one single comic from Sandman that very much influenced me. Yeah, paying off the house makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I got into the habit when I was trying so hard to get over this giant like mountain of work to get East of the Sun ready. I tried whenever I would meet an author, I would try to have them sign a book and essentially put something in there like keep writing, because a lot of it was after Viable Paradise when I first wrote these books. And VP let me, actually it was probably some of the first signed stuff I got. And all my Viable Paradise instructors were like, keep writing, just keep working on it. So that, I just continued that. So Gurm told me to keep writing, and Neil Gaiman told me to make good art, and those are my treasured possessions. When you're an aspiring writer and like two god writers, like sign your books and tell you to keep going, it means a lot. Even though I don't know Neil very well at all. I just met him at a signing, and he knew, like, we talked Gurm very briefly, so he knew that I was Gurm's friend, but that's it. But it still works. It's still good. I can still open up the book and go, keep writing, dang it. Yeah, classics, Oprah tends to do like that resilience stuff, right? She tends to do like books that encourage a resilient spirit, I think because that's her audience. But sometimes she'll choose something that's just an inspiring read, like inspiring resilience, I feel like the Oprah's book club very much plays to Oprah's brand and Oprah's audience. So it's not necessarily going to be the best books out there. It's going to be books that are good, that fit that message. I think all book clubs are like that to a point. You've got people who are choosing the books, and that's going to create a certain bias. And, and if that's your kind of thing, then that bias is good for you. Yeah. Yeah, that's why Oprah's book club works, right? Is that a lot of people want that message. They want and need that message of resilience and of inspiration, and that's what they come to Oprah for. And so it makes sense that her book club would play to those books, even if there are quote unquote better, or you may enjoy, other books more. That's the dealio with hers, right? It's like our book club with my local writing group is very much biased, I think, toward fantasy. It tends to be slightly biased toward fairy tale. And it's definitely biased toward, like, feminist and LGBTQ plus. Because we have several members who are in that wheelhouse, and for the first time, there's a lot of books that are, that are concentrating or framed around that. And so it's cool because it made me read a lot of stuff that I otherwise may never have discovered. We also did do some traditional stuff. We did read Snow Crash, which was nice to reread that after so many years. Yeah, exactly. So don't tell me you have aliens taking over your hands, Twisted Oma. So I'm just putting a little bit of the orange along the bottom here. I want, because these overhanging little metal bits, you wouldn't really get a lot of light here, so you can see the shadow I'm leaving. And then we just want to pick up those edges just a little bit. No, I haven't heard of it, Ephistic. Who's the author? Although if it's a sci-fi one, that would be why. Because I'm actually not, other than Gibson and Stevenson and Bryn, I actually am not a big sci-fi reader. The genre is just doesn't light me up like fantasy does, so yeah, I haven't. I know there's a ton of good stuff out there, but it comes down to just like I said, 4,000 new books on Amazon a day, right? And out of those 4,000 new books, 100 are probably amazing. But how do you discover them, right? And that's 100 great books a day. How are we ever going to keep up? So yeah, so I'm not surprised that I haven't heard of that author. That and I dropped out of doing book club when I was getting ready to ramp up for publishing East of the Sun because I just did not have the time. And I try not to read my own genre when I'm writing actively. I find it just complicates things. Sci-fi. Oh, okay, so science fantasy. Actually, there is a term for that, Ephistic, is science fantasy. There's quite a bit of that. That's a very popular kind of split genre. It's been around since the 80s. I mean, a lot of people classed Anne McCaffrey as that, science fiction with dragons. There we go. So just getting a little bit of light there at the corner because there's going to be a lot of shadow all down here, so I don't highlight this edge. Yeah, but people who maybe don't like really hard sci-fi can get to like science fantasy because it is a little bit more, especially if they're fantasy readers, because it's a little bit more what they are used to. Bringing a little bit more red in here because I got a little bright there. Orange, even though orange is so transparent when we try to base coat with it, when you try to highlight with it, it has an annoying amount of vibrancy. It stands out a little bit too much. And actually, I feel like I want to put there. Now you guys can see it a little better. The miniature is dark enough that I feel like I need the black backdrop so that you guys can see details. So you can see those little highlights that I'm popping in just around the corners and edges of the red. We have a highlight up top. We're pretty good. Let's get the rest of this. This is kind of all in shadow here, but I do want to bring it up just a little bit. So I just won't bring it up quite to the same level as everything else. I'll just make sure that there's a really strong heraldic red highlight. I could grab some clear red if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to just settle for maybe putting a little bit of orange along this lower fold to make it stand out a bit. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I took that writing coaching thing last month, and I think the one thing I got out of it actually was that it was not good for me to like split my day. Like if I'm gonna work on my Patreon, instead of like, I used to just go, I'm gonna work on my Patreon for an hour, and then I'm gonna work on my writing for an hour, and I'm gonna work on, my dog stuff for an hour or whatever. I would split up my day a lot. I didn't realize that was actually working counterproductively to me. So like if you are having problems with productivity, try to figure out, like if you're trying to spend a whole day on thing and it's not working for you, try to maybe split it out and block it out. But if you are doing a bunch of different and trying to refocus on different tasks throughout the day, try spending just a one day on one thing. For me, it's been a revelation. Like, to the point where yesterday I had to do coaching and stream, but then I also needed to work on some other stuff, and my whole mental just rebelled. It was like it wanted to focus on one thing and it couldn't. I'm getting a lot more done since I started just focusing, like, this is a writing day, this is a Patreon day, this is a dog stuff day. Yeah, this is a model. This is a Bones model. Now, this is a Bones USA, so I could prime it a fistic. But with Bones, part of the selling point with Bones has always been that you could paint right onto the model out of the package. I find that you can't. That often you'll have some problems with that. I always wash my models in hot water and dish soap, but I don't really need to prime it, so I'm just like, I'm going to save primer. So yeah, essentially with the plastic, with Bones plastic, what we found is that the paint bonds onto it really well. And also with plastic in general, it's so lightweight that you're not going to have the problem where the model is heavy and rubbing off when it hits a surface, when it falls over and hits something. It's not necessarily going to chip or rub off because the model is so lightweight. So I wouldn't necessarily throw this in a box and have it rattle around with a bunch of other models. Like, if I was going to do that, I would definitely have primed it. But because this is a display model and it's only probably going to travel to Reaper and then sit on a shelf for eternity, I don't need to worry about that. And so I didn't feel it necessary to prime. Sometimes I'll prime because I want to do a Zenith overhead spray. But most of the time, Mephistic, I actually prefer to light gray primer, like light gray or white for the majority of my work anyway. So planing over the light gray is just like that kind of thing. Historical fiction, huh? Twistedoma. That stuff is usually too heavy for me. Like, I remember in high school, I got exposed to, or was it high school? I think it was high school. We got exposed to Centennial, which is a James A. Michener novel that got turned into a TV miniseries adaptation. And we actually, because it was, historical and about the Old West and the, migration out there and how the lifestyle and everything, we watched it actually in one of my history classes in school. So that was kind of our interesting thing. But I realized that I was not into, not into historical fiction during that time, that it wasn't quite my bailiwick. Part of it, of course, is that Michener writes multi-generational. And I don't like that. I like to actually be with one character through the entire series. Or at the most, a few different characters, but the same people, right? But I have a friend who loves that sort of writing. It definitely has an audience. The sweeping saga, historical saga stuff with a lot of intrigue. I mean, that's part of why Game of Thrones did so well, right? All right, I realized there was an area here I needed to shade. Just a quick. There's a little notch in the hilts here. So I'm just going to shade that real quick. I'm mixing a little bit of brown liner into my heraldic red, and I'm just using that. There we go, a little bit better. But yeah, the great thing about writing nowadays is that everybody's got, it's exposed how every reader has such different tastes from every other reader. And that's great for writers because it means that you probably can find an audience if you stick with it long enough, right? And then whether your book has enough wide enough appeal determines how well you sell. These days I'm always reminding myself about there's an indie writer. He used to be traditional. He writes a great book. Wesley Dean Smith wrote a great book on like the sacred cows of publishing, essentially debunking a lot of publishing myths. But one of the things he talks about is this is a long game these days. If you want to go in and be a writer, you've got to have a plan, and you've got to be willing to be in it for years, because it takes that long to build an audience. Kind of the same thing if you're like, you go into mini painting and you're like, I want to, make a living at this, or I want to make a solid part-time income at this. You've got to put the time in to get, better and better. You have to work at it. You have to build an audience on eBay or Etsy or whatever you're using for your platform. Nothing is get rich quick, and certainly it's not get rich with this kind of hobby or with writing, unless you get very lucky. Probably, you sound like me, Chibi. I picked up the Thornbirds for freak's sake and powered through it. I was just bored, and Dad's bookshelf is where I went when I was bored and I was out of my own books and I'd already read through everything. You managed to slog your way through Hawaii, huh? Oh yeah, C.S. Lewis. Yep. My first fantasy science fiction was Anne McCaffrey. The Harper Hall trilogy. I was done then. I wanted my own dragon easily. That was what I wanted. Cuz other kids sucked and I just wanted a dragon. Yes, Tony Hillerman. If we get onto detective fiction, we're done. I'm just like, we're going to talk for the rest of the stream. But yeah, I love Tony Hillerman's stuff. My mom got into Tony Hillerman. That's how I started reading their books. I like the earlier series too, though. Because the Jim Chee books are the later books. The Leaphorn books are the first, right? And then as Leaphorn got older and aged out of the profession, she gave Chee more of a central role. But man, she's been writing forever. Like, I really need to go back and start reading those books again, actually. Thanks for the reminder. I'm going to make a note of that, because I'm looking for more mysteries to read. And I could stand to go back and reread those books, because they're just so good. Thanks, Twisted Oma. They're set, for those who have never heard of Tony Hillerman, they're set in the Southwest, I believe in the Pueblo Reservation of Arizona, I want to say. And they're just fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic. If you really like the Southwest and like that cold ambient, she's just so good at it. It's great. It's a great series of books, and she's written a ton of them. So if you haven't ever discovered her and you're looking for a new series to binge, just go. Just don't even question. Pick up the first Leaphorn novel and read it, and then go, wow. And she's got like 60 zillion other books. I'm gonna be reading forever. It's always great when you can discover an author like that who's been so prolific, and you can discover them later after they've gotten like 40 books out, because then you're just like, yes. I don't have to think about what else to read for a long time. Navajo. Thank you, Navajo. But yeah, they're really good. Really, really good. Great characterization, great writing, amazing just like talking about the like Navajo culture and how it runs headfirst into like, how tribal culture runs headfirst into the Western culture. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Sympathetic characters, really cool setting. Very, very good. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. Highly recommend so much I'm going to go out and rebuy a bunch of them. Yeah, I can't listen to fiction audiobook. Actually, I didn't realize what I was getting into, but I picked up the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People which is one of the self-helpery books that I just had been just holding off on for a long time. I was just like, yeah, it's ancient. What could it do for me? Blah, blah, blah. So I finally pick it up, and the thing is like 15 hours long, and it's packed with dense, crazy, like awesome information. And I'm like, whoa. So I guess I'm going to be listening to that for a while on my walks. I can already tell I'm going to like this guy. And I'm a little bit like, I'm intrigued because it's like a book about, it's not a book about self-improvement so much as it is about character building. Like, so it is self-improvement, but it's from a totally different perspective. I'm going to actually get a little bit more, I'm going to mix a little bit more of my Heraldic Red with Brown Liner here, guys, so that I can get, I want to deepen the shadows here a little bit between these panels and make them stand out a little bit more, so. A long time, over a decade, well over a decade, Aphistic. You do need to shake them. Like if you've left them for a few years, you're probably fine. If you leave them for over 5 or 6 years, then I'm going to get worried that they'll start to settle out. Reaper isn't as bad about this as Vallejo and some other thicker resin paints are, like the really goopy paints, like with the heavy resins and heavy coverage. Those can settle out and really plug and just be unrecoverable. But if you shake your Reaper paints every few years, just go through and give each of them a good shaking, get them back in solution. If over 10 years, you're going to notice a bit of evaporation. So 7 to 10 years, maybe pop the tops out, add in like 20 drops of water is usually what I do to each one. And then I just shake them up and they're fine. But, yeah, I get it on audio. Yeah, I actually didn't like audio at all. I've never used Audio Chibi until I got my concussion. When I had my concussion, I couldn't read. And so I actually had to turn to audiobooks because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do any of the visual things that I do. No painting, no reading, none of that. And so I actually started listening to audiobooks when Blazy, my old dog, gave me a concussion. Kiri's daughter. It's the only concussion I've ever had in my life, and a dog gave it to me. It's ridiculous. Yeah, the problem with GW pots is that you always have to open them and expose more air when you use them. Whereas a dropper bottle, you don't have to do that, right? The dropper, you're just squeezing the paint out. Sure, you're sucking a little bit of fresh air back into the bottle, but it's tiny bit. As opposed to the pot where you're leaving it open, unless you're transferring the paint to a palette, you're leaving that pot open and it's evaporating. Plus a pot has the problem of a double seal where air can get in. So you've got not only the top that you open that can let air in, but also this area, because this is a screw-offable top, right? So there's 2 different places on these pots that air can get in even when they're closed. So what you do is you want to store them upside down. When you've got a pot like this or any paint pot, you want to store them upside down. This makes the fluid go down, and that helps keep the air from coming in, from essentially coming in to dry out the paint. So always store if you've got GW or other paint pots, P3, store them upside down. And also add water. Just like I said with Master Series, except I would add water like every 6 months to a year, depending on as I saw the paint thicken. Yeah, Blazy loved Frisbee like Kiki does. And she was bringing back a Frisbee as I was bending over to get the next Frisbee, because that's the way you do it. And we both went for the Frisbee at the same time, the one on the ground. And her very hard 70-pound noggin hit me right in the temple. And then I noticed, so I didn't think anything of it except it hurt like a bitch, right? And then later that evening, I was trying to read and my head was just hurting and I couldn't do it. And I'm like, oh, fudge. So at that time I was married to Zach and his dad was a pharmacist. So I texted him and I'm like, so here are my symptoms. And here's what happened earlier. And he's like, yeah, most likely a mild concussion. He's like, you could go to urgent care, but they won't be able to do anything except make you go to the hospital for a CT scan. And they'll probably just be able to tell you, yes, you have a mild concussion. So as long as you're not having blinding headaches or pain, you just got to live through it, essentially. So yeah, and I was always doing my treadmill every night at that point, and I always read books on the treadmill. So instead I got audiobooks and I tried my first audiobooks. Yeah, I mean, if you really want a color, if I really want a color that's in a paint pot, what I'll do if I try it and I really like it, is I'll just transfer it. I'll get one of my empty droppers and I'll just transfer it to a dropper bottle. Thin it down when I do it. We're all good. That sounds familiar. I want to say that I've read Dark Winds. Because they've written a couple of standalones as well that are out of series. All right, so I'm gonna mix up some of this red with my brown. So I'm gonna transfer it to a new thingy. I want to mix it into a darker red. Yes, we will totally feed your, we will tell you you're making the right decision. Just a little bit hashtag biased. Just a little hashtag biased. But yeah, I mean, MSP are nice because they have a long life. They're, we give you, there's a ton of options for colors. There's obviously, if you hang around on this stream or you go to my YouTube, there's a lot of resources on how to use the paint, or go to Reaper's YouTubes. We've got all those classes from ReaperCon Virtual Online 2020, like my How to Thin MSP Paints video. So there's a lot of material out there about how to work with them. And if you have any questions, all you have to do is pop on here one morning and ask me. Yeah, I mean, Games Workshop, you have to understand their strategy. Their strategy is to hand you a fish. They don't want to teach you how to fish because they really don't want you going to their competitors. And if they teach you how to fish, that means you can go to anybody for your supplies. But if they hand you a fish, then you learn to use their particular fish, and you just want to go out and buy another fish because it would be too much trouble to actually learn how to do X, Y, or Z, like how to build your own washes or contrast paints. And so they essentially want you to be, it's no different than Apple or any other company that's trying to build what they call a moat around you. They're trying to keep you in their ecosystem. Facebook is one. And they want you to be able to do everything or as much as possible in their ecosystem so that you don't get tempted to go outside of it. But I believe in teaching you how to fish so you can go to whoever you want. I don't care if you use my paint or if you don't. I want you to have the tools to use everything. And that's just me. Yeah, Quindy with the links. But yeah, I mean, because I'm, and this is actually something in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that is resonating with me, but his attitude is that, service is the highest calling. So I feel like that aligns with me because I'm like, if you don't buy MSP, if you like a different paint line, that's cool with me. I don't care. I just want you to have the tools to make your own choices about what suits you, right? That's where I'm in it for that. I'm in it for educating you guys. And if you buy my paint and give it a try, then I'm super happy. I'm over the moon because, I did put a lot of love into that line and it is very different from everything else out there. But that's not the point of why I do what I do. Going to get a little bit more heraldic red here and get a little bit of a highlight on this. Just trying to get these guys figured out. Got a little bit, need a little bit more orange. I think we're pretty good. We've got just enough highlights back here because remember the wings are going to be back here, so we don't need a lot. But I like to have something on there. Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, 3D printing is the thing. I mean, buying models from Reaper just gives you another option, right? It's just a different thing. And it's like, you're supporting different artists, right? So you're supporting the 3D artists that you're getting your STL files from, or you're supporting the artists who work for Reaper when you buy Reaper models. So it's really, I don't see it as one way, like, I don't think one side is going to win out over the other. It's just that the 3D printing stuff has essentially enabled a lot more miniature sculptors get into the hobby, right? To get into the business, rather, I should say. Because now they have a platform and they're able to provide their sculpts to people without having to worry about inventory or, casting them. And that was a big barrier before up to this point, right? If you wanted to have a miniatures company, if you wanted to do your own sculpts, you had to figure out, well, who am I going to get to cast this and what material and, and all this stuff. And then you were dependent on that company. And there weren't very many good resin casters out there. Like, there was a lot of problems, and Kickstarter fulfillments have run into this problem. Not so much now, because now they can just 3D print everything. But I mean, there were several Kickstarters I've known of in past years that ran into big problems with supply because their resin caster was overbooked and just couldn't get the stuff to them in time, or there were problems with the casting and all that, So nowadays, this has freed up those people who probably were frustrated in the past and let them get their sculpts to you and make some money at it without having to worry about inventory control, production, dealing with unreliable suppliers, any of that. They just digitally deliver it to you, and it's wonderful. So, nice, Felix. Yeah, Ed really understood that generosity on that level would be repaid. Like, it didn't cost the company very much to do that kind of gesture, and it was always worth it in goodwill. And that's something I hope that Reaper continues to understand as it grows. A lot of big companies, lose sight of that. All right, I'm just using some thin down brown liner now. It's actually my dark red, and I'm just going to line around and shade around the bottom of these leather bags a bit, because that's next. Yeah, Blue Frog, that's what they're made for. They're made for layering and glazing, because since I made them, that's my style. So I made a paint that suited my style because nothing else really did. I was always very frustrated. I essentially just kind of detailed the things that frustrated me about other paint lines that were out at the time, and then I tried to make a paint line that didn't do those things, which led me to making a paint that was really thinnable and stayed in solution, that was more durable and didn't rub off nearly as easily when thinned, things like that, those qualities. And that was a little bit more fluid out the gate, which I enjoyed more than having to thin my paint forever to get it to a workable standard. So just doing a little extra lining on the underside here of this metal part. Yeah, as long as it's high enough resolution, right? As long as your printer's good enough resolution. David and I pulled the trigger on our 3D printer too, and we still haven't had time to play with it. I'm going to poke him a lot this summer about getting on that. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to win. I'm getting the feeling that we're still not going to be using our 3D printer for a while, because the problem is that the new WoW, thingy will come out, and then Diablo 4 is going to hit. And once Diablo hits, I've already been told I'm a widow. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that if anybody is going to learn how to use our 3D printer, I probably shouldn't wait for David to do it. Yeah, it is dangerous. It's just as dangerous as just going out and buying a bunch of miniatures, right? It's oh, hold on, Polly. I've got several. Yeah, Gibson. Well, we just don't have a use for it. So the one I'm using today is a Winsor & Newton Series 7. It's a size 0. But the reason I'm using it is that it's very similar to my other favorite brush, which is a DaVinci Maestro Series 10 size 1. And the one that she just linked to you, Gibson, or whoever asked. I just missed it. Polly. The one that she just linked is actually the one I use more, which is the DaVinci here. DaVinci Maestro Series 10 size 1. And then there's this, I've been using this Winsor & Newton Series 7. But if you look at them, you'll see why I'm using the Series 7. It's almost exactly the same size and shape as my favorite Da Vinci. So I'm not above like trying a different brand every once in a while. The Series 7 I've had a rocky relationship with over the years, but this particular one is doing very well. So the Da Vinci and the Da Vinci Maestro and the Series 7, and then the other brand that I love is Raphael. And where is my Raphael? Where's a good Raphael? Where are you? Where are you, Raphael? Where are you? We've got a 0 here. And the Raphael 0 in the 8408 is just a little bit bigger. So this is a Raphael 8408, which is their pointed round. And it is, if you look at it, just a size bigger. So on busts and stuff, I like the Raphael. I've got bigger sizes for them. So yeah. Yeah, you don't find Da Vinci on Amazon. You find them at Dick Blick. Online art stores. Although I have found Raphael and Winsor & Newton on Amazon, but I do order from Dick Blick every once in a while because they have good prices on brushes. They're a big enough retailer that they have good discounts, and they have a great customer service guarantee. Yeah, Kodiak, I was hoping, like, David bought it, and so I was hoping that he would dive in and deal with it, and he's just not. Like, there's just too much else in his life distracting him, which, you know, I'm me. If anybody on Earth understands having too much crap going on, I do. But eventually, I'm going to want to buy and print something, and so I'm kind of like, in my head, I'm slowly getting resigned to the fact that I need to learn how to use the printer. Because David is not going to... Once Diablo hits, there's just no hope. I have a whole video on this, I think, Fistic. I think I did brush care for my YouTube channel. But to summarize, I actually don't need to clean my brushes, like, hardly ever. My brushes, like wear down before they need cleaning. And the reason is, I think, just from like looking at what I do, but I rinse my brushes and reload them all the time, like much more frequently than a lot of people do. Because of that, I'm rinsing a lot, and the paint doesn't really have a chance to work its way down into the ferrule. So, I mean, I haven't cleaned this brush once, and I've been using it for a couple months now, and it still keeps a perfect point. In fact, it keeps a better point than it did right out the gate. So essentially... Oh, Richard, using a good brush levels you up. You realize that, Richard? You could pull out, if you have not been using Kolinsky Sables and you bought one, if you pull that sucker out, you're going to level up instantly. Like, that's what people don't realize when they're like, I'm not good enough to use this brush, is the brush makes you better. Because it allows you to hit the details that you struggled to hit before. So don't leave it in the tube. You can always remember, they're like, what? They're $12, $14. Like, even if you wreck it, it's going to take you a while to wreck it. And, you know, in the meantime, you could be getting better. Because I usually find that people go up at least one level as a painter when they start using Kolinsky. Like, that's all it takes. The paint's going to come off the tip. Oh, okay. Just cheaper ones. All right. Well, I don't know. Use it for your detail brush then. Seems weird to me. It's just like... Because a good Kolinsky, and the high-level Kolinskys are better. Like, you will notice more improvement than the lower-level Kolinskys. Because they just keep a better tip. That's the difference between a cheap Kolinsky, in my experience, and a really good Kolinsky, is the construction and the quality of the hair is just that one grade better, that it holds that needle point just that much better. I just swish it in the water. No, don't. I mean, take brush, insert in water. Usually I insert it about to the level of the ferrule. Swish around. That's all it takes. Because remember, Aphistic, I'm working with really thin paint. And when my paint is thin, like it's a 2-to-1 probably at this point. These are starting to dry out now. They're starting to get a little thick. But when my paint is this thin, then all it takes is a quick swish to get my brush completely clean. If we're working with thicker paint, or if you're letting your paint sit in the brush for longer, then it can be harder to clean it. But if you get in the habit of rinsing your brushes frequently, you have a problem, Gibson, yes. Especially because they're not like, it's not like they're like, you're never going to be able to find another one. You just go out on the internet and buy one. But yeah, never mash your brush, never like grind it. The only exception is if your brush is truly globbed, like the bottom is all dark and it needs a cleaning. And I recently did I know I did a video on this for my Patreon, but I did a brush cleaning video on how to clean with Winsor & Newton brush cleaner. And that's the only time I will gently flatten my brush and roll it through the cleaner. Just a little. But that's it. Yeah, you really can tell. The level, the grade A, grade 1 Kolinsky, you can tell. Yeah. But yeah, if you thin your paint, and remember, and just dip your brush like only like a third to a halfway into the paint ever. And then just rinse a lot. Like I usually will dip my brush into the paint. It's got about a third of the way up. I'll knock the extra paint off. And then I'll paint with that until it isn't working, or until like I've done like some lines. Let's say I'm just painting. I'm doing some lines here on this. And get some shading in, some lining. When I feel like my paint is, like I've used it for a while and I'm like, oh, there's not as much paint on the brush. I need a little bit more paint on the brush. Instead of just reloading it, I will rinse it and then reload it. And that's probably the difference right there. Instead of just continually reloading my brush when my paint starts to get a little tacky and I need more paint on my brush, instead of just reloading it, I rinse it and reload it. So I'm rinsing the brush like constantly. But because of that, I don't ever need to clean them. Like I don't ever use pink brush soap. It's just never necessary for me. It wouldn't be if you just like, if you got in the habit of rinsing instead of just reloading. Because if I'm army painting, and I would only ever do 3 to 5 models at a time when I was army painting. But if I'm army painting, it's the same thing. I'm not going to just reload every time and not rinse my brush. Even if I am, like, if I reload once, you know, if I'm like paint. Because if I'm using thicker color and I'm going to base coat, obviously I'm going to have to probably reload a couple times and just to spread that thicker paint around. But then my habit is going to be to go to the water and rinse it out and then reload with that color again. And it's just a habit that I've gotten into just because I'm like, the paint gets sticky on my brush or I see it going too high up my brush, it really annoys me. And so that's a trigger for me to rinse. And so that essentially will keep you from abusing your brushes as much, because if you're not letting the paint get all up here, then you're going to get better, right? The other thing you can do is just use a good synthetic for your base coating, where you're using thicker paint, and only ever use your Kolinskis for the thinner paint applications. I would not use turpentine. If you don't even need to, never need to reach for that kind of toxic stuff to fix it. All you need is this stuff. My bottle got stuck in the car during a hot day, so it's kind of warped. But Winsor & Newton brush cleaner and restorer is all you need. It will take dried acrylic and oil out of your brush. It is non-hazardous, biodegradable, and low vapor. It is miracle stuff. It'll even take paint out of clothes. Just be careful that, test it obviously on a small area. So don't ever use turpentine. It's not necessary. Yeah, just get a bottle of that. It'll last forever. Like, you just, like, if you have a palette, a ceramic palette, just put a few drops, like, into the palette and then clean your brush in it and then wipe it out with a paper towel and you're good to go. Like, that's where it's at. Like, I hate solvents. I just hate them. The only time I ever use them is when I'm dabbling with my oil paints, but even there I've gone for the orange peel, the orange essence Insta solvents instead of turpentine. If I never smell turpentine again in my life after going through college as a oil painter, it'll be too soon. Yes, life is too short not to use good brushes. I agree with Quindy. For me, it would just be a handicap. Like, it would be like, I would get frustrated because I wouldn't be able to do all the fine stuff that I'm used to doing with a lesser brush. Like, I'm very persnickety about brushes because I do so much tiny detail and really fine texture and stuff that, all the tiny lining that I do and all the rest of it. I think these scabbards are going to have to be black. And then I'll do the leather and that stuff. So I actually should just paint that in now. Where is a black? Could use Nightmare Black. I kind of want it to be just a black, though. This is one of those rare cases that I might use an actual black because I used like the dark blue, like I used Nightmare Black on here, but I don't want it to be the same color as the metal, that I would actually reach for a real black. So I'll just reach for Dragon. Oh yeah, and when I was in college, they didn't tell you anything was bad for you. Like, we were breathing in crap and that we should never have been exposed to. But yeah, turpentine, just like, yeah, ucky. I have the orange stuff. The orange stuff almost kills me too because it's so very strong. It just pervades. Like, I take a tiny bit out and it goes through the whole hobby room. But at least it's just orange and it's not like rotting your brain cells. It'll be better now that it's getting on towards summer. I can pop open the screen door in the hobby room and get an air draft going through it. So, mix these up. Now, the one brush I do abuse regularly is my mixing brush. I have a kind of a craptastic brush that I got through a Kickstarter. It was actually a very craptastic brush. So I sacrificed it to be my mixing brush. And because it's a bigger brush, it's actually a great mixing brush because even after I mix stuff, it still isn't, the paint still isn't all the way up to the ferrule, which is great. Because then I can still rinse it out and salvage it, and I probably won't. It'll take me a long time to destroy this mixing brush because of that. Or just use your nice brush to paint some of your commanders and really cool models in your Dark Elf army. I mean, that's what I always did, is I would always like just bust through my mooks, so to speak, and then I would spend extra time on my general and my heroes. I mean, that's what those models are made for, because they're so cool that it makes sense to whip out the good brush and spend extra time on them. All right, so we're gonna grab some black and just block this in. Let's see, I may actually need a little bit extra. I accidentally put a little bit too much water in my black, so I need it to cover, so I'm gonna pop a little bit more paint in there. Yeah, it's been in the 70s the last couple days, but now we're back down into the 60s here. I'm like, oh, I want my summer, but I've got lots of time. Summer is coming. I booked my flight. Oh, hey, we should look and see if there are puppy pictures. Hold on. Since you didn't get a Kiki today, 1 second. Let me find. Let's see. Zam. Let's see if I can find the litter. There we go. Join. View. Okay, little tiny beans. Let's see if I got some good puppy pictures. Oh, it's two little puppers snuggled under a binky, guys. Two tiny puppers, Kiki's half siblings, snuggled under a binky. Unlikely because she likes to be out in the other room, Agent Marble. I don't want to force her to be in here when she likes to be out by her door. And let's see, I'm sure there are other cute ones. Oh, okay, here we go. 1 week old. Oh, they're very heavy too. They're big puppers. Let's see if I can find some cute ones. So that's, oh, so cute. So cute. They're so tiny. They're just Shiloh-pods at this age. Little Shiloh-pods. That is quite the lump. Beauregard. And this is Fjord. Fjord is pretty. I like the green collar. Oh, such a cute stretchy toes. Little stretchy toes. So cute with the little puppy collars. Oh, it's so cute, stretchy toes. Oh, it's got a little star on his chest. Little tiny star. You guys can't really see it. There you go. So this is at 1 week old. They're really just Shiloh sausages at this point. Jester. Jester is cute. Yeah, well, these are Kiki's half siblings. We have to share. Oh, Caleb. So this one is the dual coat. So he's more of a dark. You can see the markings coming in on his face, but mostly black over the body. Let's see here. 1 second. Oh, the face. The little face. The little pupper face. Pupper face. He's like, where are you? Are you my mom? They can't. Their eyes will open this week. Oh, and there's Zam. Pretty Zammy. Pretty Mama Zam. There's another dark pupper. There are 7 total. Yasha is the silvery one, I think. Oh, so cute. So cute with the little pink pads. So cute. Very adorbs. Very, very adorbs. So cute. So cute. Love the colors in this litter. There's all sorts of different colors. There's golden and there's reddish and there's silver. Yeah. Pretty poppers. Okay. And then Caduceus is the last one. There's another Shiloh sausage. Yeah, season 2, of course. And there's the gang. The gang with Mama Zam. So yeah, but you can see all the different colors. That's what I like to see. I love it when there's a rainbow litter. I call it oh, she doesn't have any whites, but like you can see there's a really reddish brown one. Really reddish brown, and then a darker gold, and a lighter gold, and a gray, and then the black ones that'll lighten up over time. But yeah. So that's Zammy's little half sibs, and I just bought my plane ticket last night to go out to do help with their evaluation. So I'm going to North Dakota over the Memorial Day weekend. And I'll be playing with puppers. And seeing Bridget, my buddy. And it should be good. It should be fun. I mean, summer in Fargo just seems to be great weather. And it'll be just on the late springtime. It should be wonderful out. So I'm just blocking in the black. A lot of these wraps here are going to be all leather. $9,679. What is that model, Quindy? What's the 9096779? So one of the urban legend ones. Oh, sorry, I realized it was a paint SKU. Oh, so yeah, I'm the one who created that color. But it was Ed's fault. In the paint department, we have a board, Tyler, whiteboard, where the other departments can come and write urgent colors on it. So like when they're getting low on stuff or they need a new whole batch for like putting together a learn to paint kit or whatever, they'll come up and they'll put those numbers on our board, or they'll write the name. But we also had a couple of potential names for like ReaperCon colors and stuff we would eventually, sometimes put up there. But anyway, Ed thought that was his license to write really, really offensive names on our whiteboard. And I got sick of it. So one time he put Drown Nipple Pink up and he thought he was so funny. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to make it. And so I did. And it became the Urban Legend color. Because we already had an Urban Legend miniatures line. And I've got a story about that too. But So it became the first and only urban legend paint color. And the first year that I did it, you had to find out about it, and then you had to come up to me at ReaperCon and ask me about drow nipples in order to get a bottle. So the highlight was when Kev White's little boy, who was probably all of 7 or 8 years old at the time, came up to me and in a very proper British accent was like, "Pardon me, do you have any drow nipples?" That kind of thing. It was cute. It was very cute. No, not awkward at all. Well, okay, sometimes it was awkward for some people. I just smirked through the whole thing. It was actually probably my favorite ReaperCon of all time. Even though I didn't get, I was constantly being interrupted and I had to like carry my bag of paint around with me because people would pounce me in the hallways. But no, the reason the whole urban legend thing started was Werner Clock, because Ron got Werner to do the 72 millimeter Sophie model. And that was the first big model. The first model of that scale that we had done. And Werner did it, but when he sent it to Ron, it was totally naked. Except for like a sword belt. Strategically placed sword belt. And Ron was like, "Werner, you have to put some clothes on this." And he was like, "Well, it was a succubus." And Ron's like, "You have to put clothes on it." But then he's like, "But wait a minute." And then he went and had Kevin put it on mold in the naked form before he sent it back to Werner to add clothes. And that is how the urban legend line became a thing. Yeah. So, because leave it to Ron to be like, "Okay, we're going to send it back to Werner," but not quite yet. Yeah, in later years, I brought it back like 2 years later, and I made a lot more. I made a full gallon, and then there was enough for everybody who asked. But I haven't done it. I won't be doing it again unless I go in. If I go to ReaperCon early. All right, so I've got those scabbards kind of blocked in. Now I want to get just a little bit of a blue-gray highlight on them, probably. Again, the wings are going to be back here, but I want the highlight to be there nonetheless. And sometimes you just do things like that. Sometimes you're just like, I know that I probably don't need to highlight this, but I feel bad just leaving it blank, so. That's the better version, in my opinion, Gibson. The urban legend one is just like, It's just a lot of skin. If you want skin practice, pick it up. But I mean, the regular Sophie has plenty of, has plenty of skin, so. I was never a big fan of the urban legend ones. I'm going to use Ashen Blue as my highlight. Because I just felt like it was gratuitous, but whatever. It suits some people. Just not my jam. I like ornate armor and clothes. I mean, I like a well-sculpted, very, very attractive female form as much as anybody, but... Yeah. I mean, there's some models, I do own topless models that I really love, but it's just like, sometimes I just feel it's a little bit over the top, and I'd rather have a cool, cool armor, cool cloth. I think it's more fun. All right, I'm going to thin down this Ashen Blue, and I put a little bit of black in it to darken it down. So we don't want it quite that light to make a good highlight. And that color looks like that. Not really. Every once in a while, somebody will pop up and go, "Is there Drow Nipple Pink this year?" And I'll be like, "Nope." And then I'll be like, "Oh, okay." Boom. That's about it. Yeah, there are definitely like Wendy people that really like the Urban Legends ones, and it's just not my cup of tea, but for each their own. And the most of the reason that I'm kind of about the Urban Legend models is that there isn't equal representation. Where are my hot men? That's the thing. That's the problem with having a game company run by men. Straight men. Is that you don't get your eye candy. You get their eye candy. All I wanted was equal representation, man. But we seldom even got any good bare chests. I mean, come on. At some point, it should have been recognized that the miniature painting community in America is half female. I know, right, green users? Right? And you can sculpt, I mean, if I must say so myself, you know, Julie, you can sculpt a pretty hot guy. I would have bought it. yeah. Or, yeah, Moonlight. Yeah, we got the sculptors ganging up on Ron in the chat. Yeah. Yeah, but I want a big one. I want a 72 or 54. I want to see every washboard ab. Oh, man. But yeah, that is the problem. Like, at some point we needed like Adrian to go up there and take over the sculpting supervision for just long enough to get us some hot guys. I mean, and you can point to the one Incubus figure all you want. That's one figure, and how many topless women has Reaper done over the years? Except that now our community doesn't really want that, and so we don't really do it because boy, do we get piled on by the feminist community when we put out something that's a little bit too much that way. Yeah, we did release, yeah. Yeah, there was it's been brought out. I mean, they still have the formula for it. I've got the formula for almost everything. They can always do a new bottle. I've got Drown and Pill Pink right here in my... Jennifer loved it. My friend Jennifer Haley, she was happy with the Drown and Pill Pink. It's one of her favorites. Because we don't do a lot of muted colors because they don't sell very well. So they're prime choices for promotional colors. Uh-oh, I hear Kiki squeaking her toy again. She must be up. But yeah, like one of the Limbo models I bought is like the witch hunter guy who's like totally bare chested, and I'm like, yes, can't wait to paint that. Alrighty. I think that's good. I just need that little line of highlight along the top of the scabbard, and I can blend it in a little bit. But I don't really want a lot of blending. Like, honestly, it's, I'm going to grab some white so I can put just a little bit of a higher highlight on it. I just want it to be, like, kind of slick black leather, so. Yeah, right. Yes, fireman calendar style. Fist bump. Moonlight, you and I see eye to eye. And oh my god, if David were here, he'd be rolling his eyes so hard. He'd be rolling his eyes so hard he'd need extra emojis. Dark Heaven Fireman line. Well, except it would be Dark Heaven Demon Hunter, Dark Heaven, Dragon Hunter, Dark Heaven, Vampire Hunter. All that. We'd get that. Somebody else is going to have to do that for us. But yeah, I'm not into the pinup poses actually for either men or women. I always want a tough, good-looking figure. Bob's in the other room. There almost was, like, one of the models I think that Julie did early on for Pathfinder was a long-haired, kind of hot, like, dude. I forget which character it was, or NPC it was. It was with a spear. And I was like, Julie can sculpt a pretty hot guy. I'm just going to do a little bit of light at the top of that. No, not Weeby style, please. We don't need to pull a Weeby. Okay, if you really want to, we can, but man. Weeby's gratuitous sometimes. It's sad when you can lift up the model and check underneath and go, definitely a Weeby. Ron tells him no and he sculpts it anyway, and then Ron buys it. You're absolutely correct. Yep. Because Jason has learned over the years. He's like, Ron needs to fill this hole in his release schedule, and he's just going to hope nobody notices. That's hilarious. It's hilarious, Quindy. Man, you guys. It's been fun. This has been a fun stream. Hey, and we didn't get to the leather, but we did get the highlights on my little sortie thing here. Mostly, almost. Need a little bit extra scabbard. Mostly right now I need to I really want to get my Anubis done so I can start a new bust, a new pretty bust. David's been painting his big child sorceress with the birdie. And I've got my color scheme like in my head now. I know what I want to do on her, and I just really want to sit down and start. So I'm like, but I got to finish Anubis first. I can't open another model. I guess I could put away Druid Dude for a bit, because we only just started his basing, so I could like put this guy, pack him and put him away, and do it that way. That feels like a cheat though, because I do like him and I want to work on him. Okay, so we got a little bit, and what that does, what that little touch of light at the top of that highlight does, is it makes it look more like a shine coming down. And then you can, especially next to this, so it just looks like more shiny leather. So, okay, next time we'll have to do our leather. Probably we'll block in our gold at the same time, just put our initial coat on, so I can look at the color blocking. And then we'll do the silver. It's going to be silver coif around the neck, silver belt buckle here, and silver mail here on here. And then we'll have gold accents. And yeah, we're moving right along. I mean, she looks really nice. I'm pretty happy. He's a sculptor for Reaperistic, and he is famous for doing anatomically correct monsters. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. So when we say Weeby style, that's what we mean. Yes, he insists that monsters like need to be correct. And this has led to some like awesome Ron facepalm moments over the years. Yeah. So stretch. You must stretch. Because it's almost time to take the scampery puppy out. But anyway, so there we are. Tomorrow we will be back with our metals, where I was doing a lot of shading on these, and we've got a lot of reddish brown tones. I feel like I want to warm it up a little bit. I feel like I've gone maybe a little too purpley. Like I want a little bit more, a little warmer, a little more neutral. So we'll work on our metallics tomorrow. We were shading down, and now we had just started bringing in some highlights, if you recall, on like the helmet here. So we have to apply those to everything else and keep moving right along on this model. Yeah, that's what we're doing tomorrow. Put Sophie back up top. And there we are. Thank you all for coming out. And I hope that you have an excellent Tuesday. I'm looking forward to the rest of mine. And yeah, so it was a fun time hanging out with you guys. Thank you. Yes. Awesome. And we will see you all tomorrow. And I hear puppy clicky paws, so that means if I don't want her nomming on things. Oh, hi, Click. Oh, wait. Come here. Yay! Yay! It's end of stream, but you all get a Kiki sighting anyway. Good girl. Yay! Yay! It's my giant monster. It's my giant fluffy monster. Hi, giant fluffy monster. Good girl. All right, there you go. Every guy Kiki sighting. Your Shelties listen as mine, huh? I can believe that. Hi there, Keekster. Hi, Keekster. How you doing? Good Keeker. Good girl. Yay! Are you ready to go? Ready to go for a walk? Yeah, is it time? Okay, let me get my shirt and let's say bye to everybody, okay? No, you don't need to eat my flannel. Oh, eek! the sisters of Battle Box set and jumped Kiki. Good girl. All right, I'll be on a second. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Kiki decided to photobomb at the last minute and have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow.